morning. Welcome to Windows IT Pro Insider. I'm here with my colleagues Mike Otey and Rod Trent out here on the beautiful campus of our magnificent Penton offices. Thought we'd come out for a few minutes and talk about what's going on and wish a happy 20th anniversary to Windows NT.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah.
Or birthday.
Or birthday.
Yeah.
Birthday.
How time flies when we're having fun.
Very important milestone for those of us working with Microsoft products, to be sure.
Right.
What were you doing when Windows NT first came out?
You know, I can remember that because we have been working. Okay, so I worked for Deloitte, early '90s. It's Deloitte now. It used to be Deloitte & Touche. Large tax audit organization. A lot of people are familiar, but we were a Novell shop. 311,
Most
312. Novell was solid, but then Windows NT4 came out. Well, we worked with 3.51. It was something to play with. The 4 came out, and that was monumental. So I remember when it came out because when it was announced, I was in the server room installing Windows NT4 on servers, because at that point, it was a corporate decision to stick with Novell, but Novell had its problems. Yeah, but the Windows NT shell, it looked pretty good, so we decided to try it out. And we were one of those rebel offices in Cincinnati, but we eventually got the rest of the firm to migrate off of Novell, so it's pretty good.
And that's history.
Yeah.
For me, I was actually, at the time I was working with VM mainframes. I was a mainframe guy. Real operating systems, and Microsoft did not have a real operating system.
Yeah.
So when they came out, when they announced Windows NT, which was a 32-bit preemptive multitasking OS, that's the real thing. And so I moved over from mainframes over into the client server project at Texas Instruments. So I still have a copy of Landman Server for NT 3.1 beta, a disk. And that's when I started working with it, and then designed and deployed it 3.5 around the world for Texas Instruments. Long time ago. Remember discs? Remember you could get NT
used to install
and diskettes.
on diskettes, 20 of them.
24 diskettes.
I remember that.
I kept those until a few years ago too. What about you?
Oh, yeah, I remember back then. Windows NT really changed the landscape of computing, I think, in a major way. I was working with OS2 and was really excited about the 32-bit operating system. We'd heard that you'd never need more than 64 bits of memory and all that kind of stuff. And OS2 was the first step in that direction. But when NT came out, I immediately abandoned OS2 and went over to it. And it not only, I guess, as we saw, was the demise of OS2, but also of Novell, like Rod talked about. It eventually wound up displacing that. And we were pretty excited about it. And I was fortunately got to be part of the people that got to start the original Windows NT magazine. So I was in the first issue, and I'm still working with it today.
That's pretty cool.
You know what I think is interesting, and people, they don't tend to think about it this way, is Microsoft has gone, and it has been more or less the same microkernel OS of that 24 diskette OS, and it's now running in the world's biggest data centers in Azure. As this, Windows Server 2012, it's the basic architecture is still the same. It's changed in a lot of ways, but that's really quite remarkable if you think about it.
Yeah. Well, it is. You think about everything is moving cloud, and just a little anecdote. You said Azure. It's the French way of saying Azure, I guess. I was hammered with that in Redmond once because I kept saying Azure. It rolls off the tongue. It sounds so much better.
Yeah.
But they were, it has to be a little bit PG version. It's Azure.
Well, I actually learned it from a friend of mine. He was one of the DNS architects, and he calls it Azure.
Oh boy.
But whatever. If you're from the upper Midwest, it's Azure.
A good friend of mine told me that used to work in the System Center group because they've always had this issue with people calling Configuration Manager SCCM. Microsoft cannot.
Yeah.
You cannot write that. You cannot say it. But then a good friend of mine that used to work in the group said, you know what? I don't care what they call it as long as they buy it.
Right.
One of the points you brought up was really interesting. It's amazing how much the operating system has changed. Back in the day, it was 32-bit. Well, now most everything is 64-bit. And it's also evolved, like Rod mentioned, to be the basis of Windows Azure. So it's moved from your desktop systems off to now it's the same basic kernel that's powering cloud systems. It's amazing the transformation and evolution that's taken place over the last 20 years, and it shows signs of continuing on pretty strong.
It's a good point, and as a server guy, I have to point this out, which is the client, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows XP, Windows 2000, Windows Vista, they all actually came from the server operating system.
Microsoft Bob.
Yeah, well, I don't
Maybe
know.
not that one.
No, Bob was,
It was like a Saturday morning cartoon put on a PC.
yeah, Bob was more of the Nintendo line of operating
Yeah,
systems, so, yeah.
Hey, I think Bob was actually, I think Linda Gates was the program manager for Bob.
That was her.
Oh my goodness.
And she's gone up to make up for that, in her charitable
Yeah.
work for sure.
Bill
Since-
saw that and said, "I gotta marry that guy."
So what
That's
else is going on right now that we want to talk about?
Well, let's see. Yesterday, Microsoft announced about a month later than everything else, but released Windows 8.1 Enterprise Preview release. Interesting that Microsoft is putting the word preview on all these releases when actually they're beta. I guess it's a kinder way to get the public to install
Right.
it and then say, "Oh crap, it doesn't work."
That's their way of not having to fix the bugs.
Yeah, it's a preview version. Why don't you just put it on, like, remember those old Viewmasters? You can kind of look at things
Right.
through it. Why don't we do it that way?
So
Yeah.
the preview version was released to the sound of crickets? Anyone
I
out
think
there?
so, because there's only like 4 or 5 additional enterprise features beyond what's in just standard Windows 8.1.
Right.
Because to me, it's a little troublesome, and I think it's troublesome to a lot of the enterprises because Windows 8 was released. Come on, that was specifically targeted to consumers, and really, the majority of Microsoft customers and their revenue stream is the enterprise. Microsoft is the one company beyond Google and all these folks that get the enterprise. So why kind of turn your back on something that you get?
That's a good point. As you can see in their last financial results, it is the server side that's carrying the company. That's where most of the profits are coming from.
Yeah.
And Windows 8 has not been adopted by enterprises.
Do you think the fact that you can now, with 8.1, that you can boot directly into the desktop, will that make it more palatable for the enterprise?
So I use Windows 8 and I've used it for quite a while. There's 2 different sides of Windows 8. There's the desktop and there's, let's say, Metro.
The operating
Because
system
people know
formerly
what
known
that
as
is.
Metro, right?
Yeah,
Right.
people know what that is. It's the tiled interface. But it's really 2 different environments, 2 different experiences. When I'm in my home office working on my desktop with my 4 monitors, I stay on the desktop side all the time. But when I grab my Surface, I want to be in the Metro side.
Right.
It's made
touch
for
friendlier.
Yeah, it's made for touch.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Right.
So, is it going to make it? No, it's not.
Not in the enterprise.
No, not
Yeah,
at all.
I don't think that feature in itself will help enterprise adoption much. That feature is actually in the preview, the initial release of Windows 8. You did have the ability to go into the desktop. And they took it out for the actual RTM release, and now I've put it back.
It's probably a registry value. They probably just set
Yeah.
it back.
And like Rod mentioned, what it does is it allows you, for those enterprise users, you don't have to see that Metro interface that you don't want to see on your normal desktop. So so it does make it a bit more palatable, but is it enough? I don't know. I guess time will tell.
Right. So we also have a big conference coming up that we're all looking forward to in October. Our annual Connections Conference in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay, and we actually have quite a wide variety of sessions happening, and quite a lot of new speakers too. I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of these new faces. We put out quite a wide call and got quite a wide response.
Yeah, we did. In fact, and people that have been to Microsoft conferences forever, Management Center Tech Ed. Sorry, I got caught up on the TechNet thing because of that. They're going to there's a lot of speakers that they're going to recognize. Because I'm looking at Connections, which is what makes me excited about it, as a best of conference. So we're taking the best of Tech Ed, we're taking the best of the Management Center, so we're taking that community and that technical expertise, all these generalized sessions, but very technical information that you can get at the conference and just take straight back and implement in your organization. We're taking all this stuff and putting it into one really neat conference. And of course in Vegas, you can't.
You get a nice overview of a lot of the new technologies too. You'll learn about Windows Server 2012 R2, learn about the new features in Hyper-V R2, you'll learn about some of the new features like the in-memory database in SQL Server 2014. Hard to believe you can even say that, 2014, but yeah.
Plus
a lot of the new technologies will be there.
And a lot of practical sessions on just how to get stuff done that you can take it down, take it right to the bank, and use it the next day.
And one note I want to make, because I've always experienced this throughout the years when a conference is in Vegas. You know, there's a lot of companies that have policies against, or they see somebody wants to go to a conference in Vegas, and they're like, oh, you can't go, it's against company policy. Or, no, you're not going to Vegas. Quite honestly, from a community perspective and from a session perspective, the way that the venue is set up with the conference center within the hotel, that's actually the best experience for a conference anywhere. You can go to TechEd when it's in Orlando or New Orleans, but you go to Vegas, you're there. You have to go to the sessions. It's
Right.
not like some big party free-for-all. I mean, New Orleans is a little bit, you know, that to me, that people would actually allow people to go there over Vegas, totally surprises me, because Vegas is a conference city.
Right. You can definitely have the experience where you go there and you never leave the hotel.
Exactly.
I know, I've done it.
Well, great. Really interesting information, interesting things coming up. DevConnections.com, right? That's the website for
Yes, it is.
Dev Connections, and it's not just Dev. It's Dev and SQL and Exchange and Windows and just a whole bunch of
System
stuff.
Center and
Systems all wrapped into one. So,
yeah.
thanks.